Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Still I Rise podcast. I'm your host, Lisa McKenzie, founder of Unite Empowering Events. I am so honored to be here today with you as we introduce you to some amazing everyday heroes who will be sharing their inspiring stories of how they persevered after a life-altering event. The stories that we are sharing come from a unique narrative therapy program we created called Storycrafting. It's a small group 6-week experience that challenges participants to revisit a time in their life when life changed. Yes, you will hear about their hardships, but you will also hear how these amazing individuals persevered and found silver linings. Many of our participants are nervous to share, and they know they're being vulnerable with you, but they each said that they wanted to share because it's their hope that maybe their stories will inspire others and help somebody else persevere also. I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Debbie Tongi, who is our program director, and we can't wait for you to meet our story crafters. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this podcast with others.
Hi, my name is Heather Welch. I was diagnosed with stage 1 triple-negative breast cancer in March of 2021. I initially got diagnosed here at Ochsner, and I sought a second opinion at MD Anderson. They both prescribed 16 rounds of chemo for me over a 6-month period. It was difficult going through treatment during the pandemic with everybody in lockdown. I had a really great support system with my husband, my daughters, and our really close friends Shannon and Greg Garrison. I couldn't have done it without them. What I found helped guide me through my journey was approaching every day with acceptance, presence, and gratitude. I hope that these words will help you through your journey. My name is Heather, and this is my story.
I'm here with Heather Welch. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. We are here to hear your story, but prior to that, I just wanted to find out, how did you find out about Unite? Like, what brought you to our program?
I was in the middle of treatment and I couldn't eat very much, but I could eat the potato soup from La Madeleine's. And it just so happened that Cammie was meeting with her Unite sisters, and they saw me and called me over to their table to join them.
I'm guessing that, did you have a headscarf on, or like what gave them the indication that you were, battling cancer?
I did. I had a headscarf on and I probably looked pretty dreadful.
So what were the actual words they said to you?
They said, would you like to come join us? And that's all she wrote. And from there, they introduced me to Unite and Spark, and that's where I met you guys.
That is wonderful. So has this program, I know we offer a lot of unique things that challenge you. I know you just did your video recording. You said you do not like being in front of a camera, but do you feel like being challenged, some of the things that we've put in front of you have helped at all in your cancer journey?
It has. Going through cancer during the pandemic, when there were no resources, there were no groups, it was really isolating. So to have found this in that time was really, really invaluable.
Has there been any part of the program up to now, because next you guys will start your runway rehearsals, which is really fun, but has there been anything that has really stood out that has moved you in a positive direction?
Just hearing everyone's stories and knowing that, everybody's journey is different, but we're all kind of in the same boat.
Hi, Heather. This is Deborah Tongi. I'm the program director here at Unite, and I had the privilege of getting to know you ahead of everybody because you were part of my Spark workshop, and I love the story. I got to hear it in Spark, but I love the story about just, I don't believe anything's by chance. I think Cammie was there on purpose. And so, again, COVID was challenging, but being able to be kind of invited in like they did at the table, I think that was a really important part. So you have done SCART at least twice. That's another one of the programs that we offer. Am I right?
Yes, it's a great program. It really helps you express some of the things that you went through in a different way. So it's not just verbal, it's a physical representation of the scars that nobody sees.
And you did a really beautiful butterfly, right? It was a dragonfly.
It was a bee. The first one was a bee.
Okay.
And the second one was like a Buddha face.
Yeah. So you got to process your kind of the scars in that visual way. And now you've just completed story crafting, 6 weeks of that. And one of the assignments, which is it's a very different way of processing your journey, your cancer. The very first assignment, you have to identify a challenge in your life. Can you tell the audience what that challenge was that you decided to write about?
The challenge was going back in time and kind of revisiting unpleasant periods of your life. That was the challenge for me.
In the actual writing of your story, did you write about your cancer journey, or did you choose another time of life? Because some women don't necessarily choose their cancer diagnosis until that.
I kind of did a chronological storyline that started, from childhood through the cancer journey and what all of that has taught me up till now.
Okay. And another interesting twist of the storytelling assignment is that you have to identify a metaphor or a symbol for what you wanted to or turn your story into. What was the metaphor that you chose? I see that the title of your story is Swim with the Currents. Does that have something to do with your metaphor?
My metaphor is water is the basis of the metaphor, because it's always flowing, and when you go with the flow, you encounter less resistance in life. So that was my metaphor.
All right. Well, without further ado, here is Heather Welch, and with her reading her story, Swim with the Currents.
My life history is like a river with many twists, turns, changes of scenery, rough and smooth sections, but always moving and unstoppable. The headwaters of my journey started May 22nd, 1972 in New Orleans. Even as a child, the path of flow my life took was a difficult one. My home life was unstable and turbulent. I left home at 17, got my GED, and started working. Like eddies in the river, I was pretty directionless, moving around a bit, living life day to day. I encountered many rough and turbulent stretches in my 20s as a young single mother of a high-needs baby while working several jobs and attending college. I met my husband in my early 30s and found a measure of stability. Our mutual love of canoeing the local waterways and bayous helped lay the foundation for new tributaries with the birth of our daughters. My 30s were spent raising our children and completing a degree in early childhood education. During this time, there were some difficult diversions of flow. My mother passed away after a long history of poor health. Then my father passed away a few years later. The loss of my father was especially difficult as we had navigated both calm and rough waters together. After my father's death, it felt like I was navigating these waters without a rudder. I did a lot of self-reflection during this time and came out the other side more centered. My 40s, I started a new career as a realtor and an educator in real estate compliance. After 13 years in Slidell, we charted a new course back to our home port of New Orleans so our daughters could start their high school journeys. Then, all of a sudden, we were forced to navigate a series of rapids, the most perilous to date. In 2020, everyone was hit by a massive unforeseen storm that stopped the entire globe. The COVID lockdown resulted in an abrupt transition to virtual school, tight quarters, and isolation from the outside world. This led to our eldest child leaving home and moving across the country. If all of this was not complicated enough, I had injured my left shoulder 2 weeks before lockdown. And as many of us found out, you could not see a doctor for any reason unless critically ill. My shoulder injury worsened, and by the time I could see a doctor, I had a major tear in multiple places that required a complicated surgery. After months of pain, sleepless nights, and rigorous physical therapy, we saw calmer waters ahead and adjusted to the new normal. A year had passed since my shoulder injury, and little did we know the most arduous stretch of river was upon us. I went to the doctor to see about a lump below my right collarbone. It was cancer. I was diagnosed with stage 2 triple-negative breast cancer. This started a whirlwind of research, trips to MD Anderson every 4 weeks, and the start of 16 rounds of intensive chemotherapy over 6 months at Ochsner. Not only was it difficult to face my own mortality, but I was heartbroken at the thought of having to bring my husband and children through yet another serious and involved health situation. We were all stuck on the same sinking ship as cancer treatments were drowning our spirits and my body. I was deathly ill, barely able to walk or eat, and in constant pain. The biggest challenge of all was that I had no way to hide this from my girls, as we were still in isolation. Even as lockdown eased and school resumed, our girls had to maintain a strict COVID protocol due to my compromised immune system. I fear that going through this during the pandemic has changed them in unforeseen ways. They are not the same carefree, joyous teens they were before. They have an air of apprehension about them now. As I recover from the side effects of chemo and surgery, I can now reflect on some of the lessons I have learned in my life. 1. Never stop striving to become a better version of yourself. 2. Never stop learning. Knowledge is power. Forgiveness is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself and others. Holding on to the past is like trying to swim against the current. When we go with the flow and accept life and the circumstances as they are, we experience the least resistance and are better able to navigate the waters. If we approach every day with gratitude, presence, acceptance, and an open mind, we can attain a measure of peace and contentment within ourselves and our current circumstances.
Wow, thank you, Heather, for sharing that story. I feel like your life just kind of washed over me, learning about the intricacies of your family life and how it impacted you. And I can attest to the fact that you are just a true woman of strength. I feel like you have found your center, and it's amazing that now you're willing to share that story with everyone else.
I just wanted to add too that, for anybody who's listening who had to battle anything during COVID, being diagnosed and being in a small environment, like you said, having to kind of, put a bubble wrap around you so that your daughters were not having to experience maybe the pain you were feeling, yet they themselves were in their own pain of what COVID brought to all of us, this shutdown. So I just want to say that we recognize that was a tough time, and so glad that that's behind you.
Thank you guys for having me.